Hi everyone, welcome. I'm Grant, and this is.
Hey, I'm Tony. Hi, everybody.
So, Tony, I'm very interested to know about your expertise in the field of Tantra.
Oh, expertise. I'm not comfortable with that word, actually, because my expertise comes from my lived experience. And even though I could rattle on about the academic side of my embodiment journey, my Tantra journey, and everything that I've learnt, and there's lots of different things, I've been doing this for over a decade, and I've got lots of bits of paper on the wall. The actual reality behind my expertise is my lived experience, both historically and in the present. And so I draw upon my lived experience and for the work that I do. So that no one can say to me, well, you don't know what you're talking about. Well, I lived it. So from that perspective, I know what I'm talking about. I know what I'm feeling. I know what's happening to me in the moment because of my lived experience.
I love what you were saying there. I don't actually think with Tantra you can actually effectively practice it without living it.
No, and Tantra, when you say the word Tantra, most people think Tantra is about sex.
Yeah.
And the reality is, both you and I know that it's a small component of what Tantra is about, but actually Tantra is about life force.
Yes.
It's about the day-to-day living, the day-to-day energy, and Kundalini energy, and what you do with that Kundalini energy moment by moment by moment.
Yes.
And so it's breath, it's movement, it's life force. That's what Tantra is, for me anyway.
Beautiful.
And it helps with sex.
Yeah, it's true. It does, doesn't it? Like intimacy, connection. Yep.
Vulnerability, all that stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
All that good, tricky
Good,
stuff.
yummy stuff.
So, Tony, what led you to the path of Tantra? What
What
little question.
What led me to the path of Tantra? So I turned 51 this year, and I had and I had spent 20 years and probably an enormous amount of money on therapy. So psychotherapy, psychodrama, psychologists, different therapy models to heal my trauma from my past. And I'm not going to go into what that trauma is in this video. I will in another one, but I was on this mission to heal my trauma. And I was working with a coach who said to me that I needed to become embodied. I had no idea what they meant. And so I started exploring what they meant by being more embodied. And the obvious choice was Tantra. And from that came a lot of offshoots, breath, sound, movement, and lots of different other modalities that came through. But what it was to me, so the reason that I started Tantra was as a way to learn how to release the trauma from my body.
Yep.
And all the other therapy models which worked were all head-based. And so I was sitting in front of a therapist talking from my head about my past and could never figure out why I wasn't feeling any better. And the minute I started the embodiment journey, which is the tantric journey basically, my depression became more settled. My addictive personalities became more settled. So all of these behavioural traits that were happening as a result of my trauma started to settle once I started doing Tantra, and different modalities from Tantra.
Was it almost like Tantra helped you to unlock the traumas that were in there, to start to really let them come? I know that's not a fun process, but you know where I'm heading with it. Like to actually see them for what they are, to witness them and then let them go, because you're working on a physical level rather than on just the mental level.
I think the thing with Tantra with me is when I started working with Tantra from a therapy perspective, and to help with my embodiment process. All these embodiment coaches and Tantra coaches I was going to see was like, well, you need to go back into your trauma, and I'm like, bitch, please. I don't want to go back into that.
Yeah.
But they were like, well, if you don't go in and feel it, and feel the trauma of what happened whenever, you can't fully release it from the body.
That's right.
And so as scary as that was, and in fact I resisted it for a really long time, as scary as it was, the minute I went in and like basically faced my trauma head on, rather than talking about it from my head, and I faced it head on and then transmuted it, and that from kind of went into that transpersonal space. I transmuted the trauma I was holding in my mind and my body, and then started to love it for what it was, and then the gifts that it was offering me. Rather than always being in that victim space of I'm a victim of my circumstances, I'm a victim of my trauma. I turned it on its head and went, how can I use this to be more empowered?
So in other words, a really powerful transformation. Taking something that we might actually consider to be an impediment or something that is not desirable, and actually shifting it and going, there's actually value in this.
I mean, I see my trauma now as one of the most profound gifts that I have.
Same.
And that I can use all the different aspects of what happened to me in the past. And I talked about it when we first started. My lived experience is what makes me an expert. And so if I have a client sitting in front of me, or in a group situation, and someone says something, there's no judgment. There's no response to it, because I've lived it myself, and because I've learned to fully accept my trauma and love it for what it is. It means that I can do the same for another person.
Beautiful. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Yeah.